I think it's easy to go to a country on holiday and experience it for a couple of weeks and just have a really good time, right? I know quite a lot of people that have been to Japan on holiday before. I myself came a couple of years ago, um, and everyone had nothing but good things to say. But what's it like actually living here? I'm going to start with the weather because in order for me to be able to sit down in this chair, put a t-shirt on, and record this, I had to cool my apartment down quite a lot. I went out for breakfast today. It's a cool 35 degrees today, and yeah, by the time I came back 30 minutes later, it was about 35 degrees and very high humidity inside my apartment. The thing with the weather here is you can't open windows and doors and get some airflow and then the place feels cooler. The past couple of weeks I've had to bite the bullet and have the aircon on even when I'm sleeping, because it's either that and you just pay the electric bill for it, or you wake up drenched in your own sweat after only a few hours of sleep. It's nice to go out when it's this hot. It's kind of a bit of a British tradition to go to hot countries and then walk around outside for too long in the sun and turn bright pink like a lobster. Um, if you ever go to a popular holiday destination and you see someone walking around, if you see like a middle-aged man walking around who's bright pink, there's a good chance he's British. I'm kind of used to it in that it's not surprising me now. I've been here long enough. But I think the humidity is really hitting its peak at the minute, and it's tiring. I'll give you that. Japan is a very technologically advanced country. For example, this futuristic restaurant robot here. Honestly, normally they look a bit more stable than this, but... However, none of that really comes through as you live here. What you experience living here is the digital sector, which in a lot of ways in Japan kind of lags behind a lot of the rest of the world. I've never had to do so much paperwork in my life. Check my address isn't showing. This is today. These are all the letters I've got today. I've got like over 10 letters of things, which is all official stuff. Things like health insurance and various different bills, which are always paper slips, and you have to go pay them in cash. Not everything is still cash based here. Some things are digitized and you can pay with your bank accounts. For some reason I can't. So I think my electric bill, for example, I'm supposed to be able to pay it with my bank account automatically, but I tried to set it up on the company's website, and websites here, if you're old enough to know what websites were like sort of early 2000s or even before that, in the West, a lot of websites are still kind of like that now. Things seem very, very old fashioned, and I've been, a lot of things I'm supposed to be able to do, and the companies tell me I can do it. I go on the website to do it and it never works. And with the electricity company, for example, I called them to ask, and they were like, we don't know why it's not working, you'll have to just pay in cash, which is a great solution. Recent years, Japan's made, it's much more ubiquitous to have card capabilities here. However, I have been to quite a lot of places still that are only cash. I've got this sitting in my cupboard, which is a box of 1 yen coins. I'm not sure if it's true, I haven't tried it myself, but these very small coins are supposed to be able to float on water because they're so small and light. Okay, here we go, let's give it a try. So yeah, it's floating. The issue is that I can't use them anywhere. When I'm buying stuff with cash, I always get 1 yen coins back, and sometimes if I'm going out for the day, I'll put like 10 or 20 of them in my wallet to try and use them at shops, and maybe I'll use 10 of them, but then when I get home and go through my wallet, I've now got 25 because I picked up another 15 buying stuff. Any kind of machines that accept payments, they won't accept 1 or 5 yen coins. The 5 yen coins aren't so bad because at least you can use them at shrines, because they're usually that's what you use at the offering boxes. But the 1 yen coins, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. I did actually try to go to my bank. I was like, can I just dump all of these in my account? There's another little thing I've gotten used to now that I've lived here about the people more so than the country. It can be quite hard to get a straight answer out of people sometimes. It seems like people won't just say no to you. What you get quite a lot, and this confused me so much at the start, what you get quite a lot is that if something is impossible or can't be done, they won't, and you say, can I do this? They won't reply no. What they do is they'll go, maybe it's really difficult, or they make this sound like they suck through their teeth, they go, and I had this at the bank where I went to the guy and asked, I was like, can I put all these in my account? And he goes, and at least in English, if someone makes sounds like that, they then would give you an actual answer afterwards. That's like a thinking sound, and then you make the answer. And he wouldn't do it. And we had this really awkward back and forth for like 3 or 4 minutes of me asking, can I do this? And the guy just going, and not saying yes or no. I couldn't get an answer out of him. So another problem I've had here with it, especially with it being summer, is there's a lot of bugs. There are cockroaches here, which I think maybe I saw one in Spain a very long time ago. We don't have things like that in England, really. I've been eating quite a lot of watermelon, and I have bananas quite a lot. And when I throw the skin or the rinds in the bin, because of the heat and the humidity, after a few hours, the smell starts to get everywhere, and things like cockroaches will love that. So you've got to keep things clean and try and deal with the smells, because it needs to sit in that bin until it's the day to take the trash out. A couple of times when I've left some of my back doors open, I've had hornets come in. The old Asian giant hornet, which is basically a wasp but the size of an elephant. Not the friendliest creatures. I haven't been stung by them yet though. Here's hoping I don't get stung by one, because apparently they hurt. And then there's the iconic Japanese semi or cicada, which, boy are they loud. There's a lot of them, and they're really, really loud at night. And I can hear them, you know, I've got thin windows and doors, thin walls and things like that. You can't get away from the sound. And then the next thing is standing out. Maybe it's not a problem to some people, but Japan's a very homogeneous country. Almost everyone here is Japanese and looks Japanese. And if you aren't and don't, you probably get stared at quite a lot. I'm kind of okay with it now, but really didn't like it when I first came here. You just have to get used to it. I mean, if it's unusual, people are curious, I suppose. I did have a funny thing a couple of days ago where I was on a train for about 15 minutes, and there was this old person who was just like almost unblinking, staring directly at me for the entire 15 minutes. Usually if like someone's in anywhere in the world, usually if you're like staring at someone and then they look back at you, you kind of like, oops, look away or something. But this person was just dead staring me the entire time, which gave me a little bit of a chuckle. But sometimes I get it even more so. As for not having hair, I've even had a couple of people that have stared at me a bunch and then came up to ask why I haven't got any hair, which is quite a funny one. I've had a few people come up to ask if I'm a criminal, and some ask if I'm religious, or sometimes it's one person asked both. They asked, are you a criminal? And I said no, and then they said, oh, are you religious then? And I said no. And then they're like, why don't you have hair? Sometimes you get stares for doing things that are not really problematic, but sort of socially unacceptable. One I get quite a lot is jaywalking, I guess, so jaywalking just isn't a thing in England. I don't know if it even exists as a rule in any kind. Basically what happens in England is when people want to cross the road, they just cross the road. Some people will wait for a good spot in the traffic. Some people will wait at a crossing for traffic to stop, but a lot of people will just walk across. You just look and then you go. There was one time where I went to step out in the road as the car was going past, and the guy driving he caught me doing it, so he stopped. So the car basically stopped dead in front of me. But I don't know, maybe he thought I was going to step out in front of his car, but I don't know. To my mind, I'm clearly going to be behind the car if he just keeps driving. But it's such a common thing in England. It was definitely unusual for me to pay any attention to crossing lights whatsoever. You get dirty looks. If there's a cross, like a four-way crossing, and one way is going and another way isn't, and the way that isn't going, the people there will give you a dirty look if you cross when your light doesn't say you can cross. Often the people in the car will people scowl at me out the window, and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should have crossed. Something else as well is eating and drinking whilst you're walking around. The best thing to do, I would advise, just eat your food at the convenience store. But I have done it quite a lot where I get something from the shop. Maybe it's, just something small like a rice ball, even like a chocolate bar sometimes from the shop, and then I'll walk down the street whilst eating it. And you get a lot of disapproving looks when you do that. So you might be thinking to yourself, what's he talking about? These aren't real difficulties. You're just complaining about little things. Yeah, I am. There aren't any real difficulties.